Mammootty, you mad bastard. This man, like I just love this man. There are scenes in Rorschach where I thought the actors are kind of twitchy. Like they all had this sort of emotional, unsettled energy to them. And I thought, I guess that makes sense because Mammootty's playing a somewhat sinister character in this, so maybe it's their characters like reacting to Luke. And then I realised that it's not the other actors that are jumpy. It's that Mammootty is so goddamn calm and confident in like all his actions in the scene that he makes them look a little nervous. Like when you look at him, you're like, oh, this is the culmination of 50 years of acting. You only get that sort of like effortless confidence when you do over 400 films like he does. He really is the king. Um, I I need some Mammootty merch. I'm telling, if you are in Australia and you know where to get some Mammootty merch, hit me up because I tried to find some and I can't find a goddamn thing. And I need some. He's the king. He's so good. God, he's good in this. Rorschach is billed as a psychological thriller, and I didn't know what to expect because I haven't seen any serious Indian psychological thrillers. I've seen some horrors and I've seen some like crime stuff, and then like I have seen thrillers, but not like full-on psychological thrillers. They've been survival thrillers. But there is a point in this movie where a character is sitting by themselves on a couch in an empty house wearing a mask, and I thought, this is going to be real weird. Like, this is going to get weird. And I'm happy to report it did in an awesome way. This is directed by Nissam Basheer. Rorschach's like this, it's a weird little piece about grief, mental health, and ultimately vengeance. The movie opens in a crashed car where Luke Anthony, played by Mammootty, he comes to, and his wife Sophia is missing. Luke reports this to the local police, and they believe that Sophia was killed by a leopard after escaping the accident. Luke doesn't take that for an answer and becomes obsessed with finding her. And in his obsession, he's combing through various woods and rural areas. He meets Balan, a local man who wants to sell Luke the house of his recently deceased elder son, Dilip. Luke decides to move in as the house is well positioned in the forest. He keeps getting the move on by cops because he can't be in the public land. But if he owns the land, he can search it as much as he wants. However, when he moves to the house, he starts to witness these strange psychological, supernatural happenings. And as the movie just pelts along, we try to determine what everyone is hiding because this movie, all the people are shady as hell. Like, everyone's up to something. You just feel it. I really like this movie. Once again, I know I say it for every Malayalam film, but Kerala is fucking beautiful. Like, lots of this movie takes place during the day, like broad daylight, which is awesome because thrillers tends to be rain, or at least in English speaking thrillers, it tends to be always rainy or dark. This doesn't. Lots of this takes place during broad daylight. So you get to see these beautiful landscapes filled with greenery, rivers, woods. It looks like a fucking Windows screensaver. Like it could be on a postcard. Even the cinematography based around the rundown old house that Luke ends up buying is beautiful in like a haunting way. You know how some abandoned places can look stunning just because it's so much empty space and it's this weirdly haunting beauty. Like the house has that, even though it's a bit sinister. They do this early on. They do this amazing overhead shot that occurs, and it pans out, and you think, oh, that's a cool shot, and then it just keeps going and going and going. Like it almost could be like from space. It's wicked. And they used it on the poster, which is great because I thought it was a fucking great poster. It's such a well done poster. I love when a movie comes out and it uses the theme of the movie and puts it into the poster. Like, I hate it when you see a poster and you're like, this tells me nothing. This is just a bunch of random heads, talking heads, or like, the old fucking cop, like, oh, like, don't give me that. Give me something about the movie, and this poster does that. It's such good poster design. As Luke starts to deteriorate mentally, there are these scenes where what sounds like an air raid siren happens, and he's like hypnotically drawn to a specific room. And those sequences, like, they're the main horror sequences in this film. They're awesome, and they're so Lovecraftian. Like, I'm a big cosmic horror fan. They are Lovecraftian. It's the whole thing about it. I was like, oh, this feels like it could be like a Victor Lavelle book or something. They're my favorite parts of this movie. And the sound design in those scenes is so good. They have this creepy little. There's a lot of like the or the drops or the violin shrieks or the and it's so they make it so eerie in a Twilight Zone sort of way. And they also muffle the background noise. So like if someone's talking to Mammootty's character, but he's in one of these trances, it all just starts slowly to muffle, and it just shows you how caught up or distracted he is in these delusions. Like, people are trying to talk to him, and he's so single-minded and fixated on what's going on, and it just really shows you how obsessed he is. Basically, it's really good. They do obsession really well in this movie. When you start to put the pieces together and work out what's going on, this movie does like a hard gear shift from police procedural to like sinister thriller, and that is mint. I loved the gear shift in this movie. You start to question everyone's motivations and their involvement, which is what all great thrillers do. I mean, I said it in the intro, but you get the feeling that everyone in this movie is hiding a secret. Everyone has some sort of dark past. Everyone's trying to get some sort of angle on the characters. Everyone's trying. There's a lot of underhanded tactics. You get to do a bit of sleuthing, which I love. I love in any film. And I love where this movie goes. And when you work out Luke's motivation, it's so fucked up in a way that I really like in movies like Mandy or I Saw the Devil. And like some of my favorite movies, they are similar in theme to what is happening in this. Sanju Sivaram is wonderful as Anil. He sort of plays a really frustrated character who's in way over his head. Nothing is going as planned. He's not a good guy, so you don't feel bad for him. But he also doesn't deal with it well. Like, you can see he's struggling. He's getting frustrated. He's getting a bit paranoid. He's a perfect counterbalance to like the calm, collected confidence of Mammootty's character. And it goes without saying, Mammootty's fantastic in this. There are long periods of the film where you just follow Luke doing stuff around the house or in the woods, and Mammootty's acting is so good that even the boring stuff is great. Like, there's not a lot of melodrama from him, even though there can be some quite big overacting from some of the other characters. Like, when something happens, people are like, oh, and he's just cool, calm, collected. There are some scenes in this movie that remind me of the 2018 movie Headhunter. It's like a Norwegian film, I believe. And in Headhunter, all you're doing is watching this guy prepare for a hunt, and he does really commonplace stuff around his house. But the way it's shot and the confidence, like the spatial awareness of the actor, just draws you in, and it's so fascinating to watch him do stuff. Mammootty does that in this. He also knows when to turn it on. Right? Like, he's so charismatic. He's got it. One of the best scenes in this film is where he attends a funeral and basically just shoves the son of the deceased out of the way and takes over pallbearer duties. I've never seen that happen before in a movie. When you think about it, it's the ultimate power move. And when it happens, he's in like this breathtaking suit. Like, I fucking love the suit in this. And this song's playing. It's almost like a Tom Waits song. And the vibe you get from that scene it's very like, the closest thing I can think of is Thomas Shelby in Peaky Blinders. Like, he's super confident, he knows what he's fucking here for, and he doesn't care what anyone else is doing. Like, he just power moves these people. It's great. Grace Anthony, by the way, Grace Anthony, is that why they called Mammootty's character Luke Anthony? I can't imagine there's a lot of people in India called Luke Anthony. Seemed like a weird character name choice. But anyway, get back to me if there is some significance to that. But Grace Anthony is awesome as Sophia, and I like that they made her character a source of reason. Often in these thrillers where you don't know if there's a monster or if it's mental health, the mental health aspect or the apparition tries to make the main character believe that they're real. That doesn't happen in this. The whole time she's like, Luke, I'm not real. Don't do this, don't do that. Remember, I'm a figment of your imagination. And that is just so much more interesting than Sophia being some malevolent spirit or some figment of his imagination that has ill intention. It's such a good choice. Now, this movie does get convoluted at some points. I found myself trying to piece the plot together quite quickly. And in some of the scenes leading up to the third act, I was trying to go like, what is the purpose of the scene? I didn't quite get the purpose of some of the scenes. They were good, but like I was like, what? This doesn't progress the character or the plot in any way that I could find. But it stays enjoyable the whole time. And I briefly alluded to it before, but some actors, I think, have turned up the melodrama to 11. And I don't think that's a problem with the actors. Like, they do their bits perfectly. I just think the director was like, hey, be a bit over the top at points. And I wish they hadn't, because I preferred it when it was more muted and serious. You know, when there's physical threat, or when there's sinister stuff going on, or when there's really full-on character dialogue moments where it's quite tense, that's when this movie thrives. And throwing like some soap opera acting in there sort of took me out of it a bit, but that's fine. You know, like there was also some parts in here that turn into like John Wick-esque fight scenes, which I think the movie probably could have done without, but it didn't annoy me or anything. I just didn't see the relevance of it particularly. That being said, the caveat to that is there is a scene where Mammootty slaps the ever-loving soul out of someone. And in the words of Jorge Masvidal, that was super necessary, because it gave me a fucking great chuckle, and it's a fucking hilarious scene. He literally just, psh, 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 it's awesome. I recommend watching this if you love psychological thrillers with supernatural elements, Headhunter, Shutter Island, that sort of thing. If you love to do a bit of sleuthing, this is a good one. If you want to see Mammootty slap the god out of someone, 10 out of 10, great slaps. The sound effects are beautiful. If you want to see one of the best examples of vehicular storytelling, Luke drives around this beautiful Mustang GT that is super banged up from the crash that happens in the first scene, and he just doesn't get it fixed. Like, it's fucking dented, one of the headlights is done. He just drives it around like bashed up. And it's a really good metaphor for Luke as a character, because it's broken. Like, it's this amazing piece of machinery, but it's now banged up and it's fucking broken. It still works, and it just keeps driving, and that's what Mammootty does in this. Like, his character, it's really good. I didn't think about it, but when I saw it, like after 2 or 3 times seeing it, I'm like, that's clever, very clever. I don't recommend watching this if you want a straight up horror. This is not a straight up horror. There are some spooky bits, and I did get goosebumps in some of like the nighttime scenes, but this is not a straight up horror. If for whatever reason you hate Mammootty, you're wrong. Shame on you. You're wrong. He's the fucking man. But this is all about Mammootty. Mammootty is the main guy in this. If you can't abide any soap opera acting style, this has a few scenes that dip into that. But, you know, it didn't particularly take it away from me. It was still a pretty good film. Overall, it's a solid, albeit weird thriller, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. I really did. I really like this. It makes me love Mammootty more, and I can definitely see the evolution, because this came out before Brahma Yugam, so I can definitely see the evolution from Luke to Pody in Brahma Yugam. Like, they're very similar character beats. It's just like a straight shot. You can see like, oh, that's why you were cast in Brahma Yugam, because of this plot piece. If you like this and you want more movies in the same vein, I highly recommend Prisoners, which came out in 2013. It's got Jake Gyllenhaal, and it was directed by Denis Villeneuve, who did Dune Part 1 and 2 recently. Hugh Jackman plays like this absolute madman due to grief. Like, he's just obsessed. He's this obsessed madman in it, and it is amazing, amazing acting. It's so good. Another great one, which is like a police revenge story. I mentioned it before. It's one of my all-time favorites. I Saw the Devil. To me, it's one of the best films ever made. It's Korean, but be warned if you do want to see it. It is fucking full on, and it's so dark. I'm talking like midnight dark. It's so disturbing, but it's probably my favorite revenge film of all time. Like, it's so good. I just love it. As always, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next week for another review. Peace.